Hello and welcome to the Monty Dean Show number 4. That's right, a month. My name is Monty Dean, and I've been joined by Andrew Bartzis, the Galactic Historian. So we're going to have a bit of a chinwag and go down some rabbit holes and maybe find out if I was a carrot in an earlier life. We don't know. Andrew, how are you?
I'm doing great, Monty. Thanks for having me on your number 4 show. I've had you on my show quite a few times, and I look forward to delving deep into wafer-thin entertainment.
Oh, exactly. Yes, it's on a certain angle it's large, but then on another one it's very thin.
Exactly. And some of the wafer topics that we're going to get into today will be just enough to fill you up.
Yes, not too much, and you won't explode like a large man, because that's the Monty Python reference. You go watch Monty Python. It's still funny today. It's kind of interesting how that works. For the new listeners or viewers, can you quickly go through what a Galactic Historian is? Yeah.
Okay, so what a Galactic Historian is I'm Andrew Bartzis, a Galactic Historian. In early 2012, I came out as an Akashic Record reader, healer, transcendent teacher, with an ability to see time and multiple forms of timelines. I put out his 20-part series called The Galactic History, which was a great influence on the entire community of spirituality. I created a product called Living the Mystical Life Daily, which is about having a daily practice so that you can have a better understanding of things that are going on and around you. How to connect to yourself, to learn the difference between emulating what others do and emanating your truth, which makes you better at seeing and perceiving the unseen world that's around you. One of the things that I came up are things called spiritual contract revocations. And these are things that are in your unseen world that are obvious to me, but were unobvious to many people when they first came out. It's how that the world is constantly engaging you in an energetic contract to believe in something when you are not entitled to believe in anything but what your personal choice is. And reclaiming of personal choice through what's called the out loud name it to claim it system. And the Galactic Historian is here to present all different versions of history that were not recorded in our common history books that were written by the victors generation after generation.
Yeah, it sounds the revocation's in a way like a permission slip. If you're familiar with Bashar and his permission slip thing, it's basically you make a choice, and by because I've done a couple of revocations myself, and you're basically saying stop that, but it's in the right way, it's the right language, it's the right key to the right energy to do the change and then move forward. So like as Bashar, I do like we're masters of limitation, and by using these permission slips we're remembering. And it does help because you can have revocations with horses and anything in reality. And it is because I'm a massive sci-fi and fantasy fan.
Same here.
So yeah, and by being part of that, the imaginations, there's not many barriers to stop, because the belief system kicks in when it's fascinating to explore, instead of like if you just watch soap operas all day. It's like, did you know that you had a past life in Egypt? What? No, that doesn't make sense.
So you use the word belief system. I take it a step further and go, there's a belief engine. So there's contract revocation and contract invocation. And that's the up and down. Now, a belief engine is something we get stuck into via perception. And turning the phrase from Doctor Who, there are things that are called perception deception filters that keep you locked into the internal combustion engine of consciousness.
Right, yeah.
Like, instead of using the jet engine or whatever else technology that's available to make an engine of belief.
Yes. And I guess that's sort of what I refer them as Team Dark. They've used that to have the control, blame, shame, and all those systems.
They created the global narrative, which is the mega belief engine we are all just fuel for.
Yeah, is that like I've got my reality and timeline, but you've got it's a collective. Like all humanity's gone, all right, today we're going to eat sandwiches. not the best example, but it's because of the belief engine of the global narrative, which I would say
we're the fuel. You might be
yeah,
diesel, I might be gasoline, and somebody down the street might be kerosene, but it's
yeah,
all still fuel. Somebody
yes,
might be peanut oil, so on and
yeah,
so forth, but they're all still fuels for the global narrative's belief engine, or a placebo belief engine. One plus
oh
one
yeah,
is two.
hmm
Time is Roman numeral time is this. All the letters of the alphabet mean this. The dictionary means this, and
yeah,
it's a subjective reality that is still based on your placebo belief.
yeah.
When we
So
break out of belief engines, there is
yeah,
where spirituality says we have the birthright and legacy to have an unlimited point of view.
ooh, yeah. And sometimes that raises people have a fear response because
Yes.
I'm getting used to it. I think I've been afraid of the power that I have. If that's
A
if
lot of
that's
people are. A
yeah,
lot of people are. And that's why I came up with a contract revocation, is to stop being afraid of your power. You got to start claiming it back over and over and over and over again as a daily practice that helps you build up the courage that is needed to face the world daily as a high-powered, high-frequency, multidimensional, multifunctional being who's not broken.
yeah. See, now that sentence usually scares a lot of people. Like not newbies or normies, but it's like, by the way, my life sucks. Yeah, but you're a multi-dimensional being. Blah 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 blah. And like, you're ruining it.
Mhm.
I have that
Because there,
occasionally.
because there's responsibility to that.
Yeah,
It's one of my
yeah,
biggest sayings is you are only equal to your level of responsibility. Your awareness is equal to your level of responsibility, and your responsibility is equal to
yeah.
your level of awareness. But there's so many people who want to know more but aren't responsible enough to know it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because you do readings, obviously.
Yes.
Well, if you have this power, why not? Like, I should have helped people like years ago, but I didn't take responsibility. So you would actually see, I guess, is like, is there a buffer where? Because for me, I visualize it like it's actually a big library and there's books, and you sort of energetically pick out a book and you read through, and like, how much does
So
your
there's no,
perception?
there's no books for me anymore. In the
Yeah, okay.
beginning, my mind needed something like that
Yeah,
until I
yeah, yeah.
realized that in itself was holding me back. So everything is in what's called knowingness. And the power of
Yeah.
now, you can know whatever is needed to be known through the query. Do I
I
need to know what you're going to say 90 words from now? No. Then it's not
yeah.
a fluid conversation. So in the moment when a question is stated and I enter the expansive processes that are out there, I then take the infinite perceptions and point of view, that's the Akashic record, and translate it in a 26-letter encoded English alphabet.
All
Because it
right.
is an
Oh,
encoded alphabet. Yeah.
oh, okay. Because that makes more sense because it's in a way it's a not a filter which blocks you. It just gets rid of all the crap you don't need to know. It's like,
Right.
yeah, when you were living in Arkansas in 1932, you had a brother called Harry. That's
Mhm.
nice.
But it doesn't
Or
apply to the nature of the question. Exactly.
exactly. Yeah, but I just said, "How are you?" I'm not how is this connected? So yeah, like, that's always sort of fascinated me. Where of like, I mean, you probably do have the option to actually know everything,
No.
but okay. But you
I
how
don't want
what?
to. I don't want to know
Yeah,
everything. If
yeah,
I knew
that's the thing.
everything, there
Yeah,
would be no point in living. So
yeah.
what it comes from me is when a question is queried to me, and I'm in that high frequency state. Am I always in the high frequency state? No, no. I'm human, just like everyone else.
Yeah, yeah.
But the skill is always there because I've developed it to always be there. Just like a football player can throw a ball 20 years later after they're retired, or you can
Yes.
pick up and ride a bike. It's always there. And it's not even a matter of rust or not. It's my personal will and choice and the courage to enter the space and not allow my internal dialogue to create a story that isn't real.
Yeah. Well, that sounds better because I guess I'm thinking of what if I had this experience, I would probably end up in the same spot where it's like, yeah, I'll just be, and if someone asks me a question, I'll know the answer that I should share in this moment of time, instead of because I'm sure once you first developed this, you had your own questions to query, like what
Sure.
about this,
And
what about this,
I answered every one of my questions before I was 20.
Oh, okay. Oh, nice. Because I do. You first had this. What would you say? Thrusted. What's the word I'm looking for? When you're at the baseball game where you
Yeah,
connected with.
everything, all that
Yeah.
is, was, and ever will be.
Yeah.
And it made it
That,
distinctive. It made it. I was at 9 years old at a big Cleveland Indians baseball game, bottom of the ninth inning, and our team, it was tied score, and our team hit a home run, and everyone cheered. That's when my life
ah.
changed.
Okay.
Everything changed for me. I knew exactly who everyone was, past, present, and future. Everyone in the stadium, listening on the radio, watching on television, and people inside and outside of the park. And they were all there
Ooh.
under a spiritual contract to watch that game. And
Okay.
what interconnected them to be there, which brought me to this expanded awareness, which helped me understand I am a teacher in the moment of now,
Yep.
not
Yep.
then or will be. The teacher of the then is recorded words that are put on the internet as an archive. So whenever I do a show, which I've done thousands and thousands of shows since since October 31st, 2012 was the first day I did a show.
Yeah.
Okay. And, before that, I had no desire to be public, but I kept getting this push from Spirit. You got to do it. You got to do it. You got to do it.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, there was fame and worldwide traveling and being on radio shows and television, going all over the world.
Yeah, which is would be an interesting experience, especially when you're not looking for it. Where this is your passion, you should do it. Like, because I think you've mentioned once or twice that I should do something similar to the podcast, and I've had other mentors point out, video and everything else like that. And my first instance was, I don't want to run a television station. I got over that, obviously, dear listener, because I'm doing this now. And to me, it's now I know I'm doing work, but there is no resistance. There's no the effort that I'm used to is gone, and it's sort of I'm floating. I mean, there's obviously there's decisions being made, and I'm putting effort in. But it's not like me washing dishes at a restaurant that I used to do. It's like there was a total grind and push of just like walking through marmalade or something like that. This one's yep.
You have enthusiastic effort.
Yes.
And when you have enthusiastic effort, the task is far more simpler and more effective at what you do. Now, that's a big thing with spirituality. People walk into it with a metaphorical stick up their ass and can't allow themselves to have joy and happiness from it. And it's why they become tortured or unable to break out of shame, blame, or guilt, or become obsessed and depressed and regressed.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there are the people that are stuck into the forever loop of conspiracy and not really believing in anything but the game of conspiracy.
Yeah, and that constant looking.
Yes.
The constant looking of like there. Sorry to interrupt, but it's just
I have always said curiosity learning is the most dangerous tool that seekers are using right now. Yeah. Because if you don't have the true enthusiastic effort to delve into a subject and learn it, you're using your greater genius in a way that is going to dilute your belief system based off of the curiosity of the moment.
Yeah, and I think this is a good time to bring in the outside world with the beer bug, as someone's referred to the coronavirus, because in the last 2 days, it's just got the amount of information that is out there with what is going on from the media, which is ramping up. They're ramping up their fear more than usual, and government.
It's necessary. It's necessary to ramp up the fear. Like here, they just last week they shut off basketball, baseball, football, tennis, golf, all major sports. Movie theaters and bars are shut down.
Ooh. Now, Americans are known for loving beer and sports, and so all the sports are gone. Oh, they'll start thinking. No disrespect to the Americans, please don't get me wrong, but
and the last time we had SARS or any of the other things, they never did any of that.
No.
And there's a healthy fear for people to have here, which will allow you to be prepared for something no one's experienced in our modern world before, which is a global quarantine.
Well, yeah, could expand on that because you've got the traditional negative fear where it's a low vibration. You sort of slow down and pause, and the trick most people allow, and I'm talking from my personal experience, you allow the fear to control you.
You
Now,
then get spun up into a subject matter.
Yeah, and
then
the lower
spin out,
vibration
and then you spin out of control and maintain the lower vibration out of emulating the fear instead of emanating your personal truth in the moment. And once you're emanating the fear being projected at you, you've lost your personal will.
Yeah. It's that you give permission to be controlled
Correct.
in a way. Yeah.
Yes.
Now with because with my roundtable I usually drop a Doctor Who reference once a show because I like the show. But I may do that with these as well. Try and slip it in Doctor Who reference. Peter Capaldi's Doctor. He was talking to I think an 8 or 10-year-old, and he said, "Are you scared?" Well, that's good because being scared's a superpower, and that's the positive side of fear. What's the spiritual saying? Like, if you're in fear, it's spirit saying that you're on the wrong path, or something similar to that, where it's not a bad thing that you're in fear or you're reacting to fear. It's a bad thing that what we just mentioned. If you stay there and live there and you build a shop.
So hold on.
What's
I want to inject something here.
Yeah.
Fear has this acronym: false evidence appearing real. What if it's not? What if it's not false evidence? What is it? What is it then?
Yeah. Sorry, the comedic brain's just going overboard.
Because there are so many little memes and acronyms that have been imprinted into our belief engine.
Yes.
It can't be anything else other than false evidence appearing real. But it can.
Yes.
It can be. Because fear is subjective to the type of fuel you are burning in your own personal belief engine of what I want to do daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly. And how you use hindsight, which most people don't know how to use, or how to use foresight.
Well,
they're all your birthrights and legacy. Hindsight is a birthright and legacy, and foresight's a birthright and legacy. And hindsight and foresight can allow you to see states of fear where false evidence appeared real, and then you're like, oh shit. It's like learning. It's like before you have sex, and then you have sex. There's all that false shit you created in your mind, from that, and then there's it's that.
Yes, yeah. David Icke puts forward that you put in a dentist appointment 3 weeks from now, and you spend 3 weeks worrying about it and wasting all that energy, and then you have the appointment, and the dentist says, "No, you're fine." And it's like, well, I just wasted all that energy and fear, and the mind went off wondering, and it's like, no, you're fine. Now that's interesting, isn't it?
That's getting spun up, falling into anxiety, doubt, and hesitation.
Yeah.
That's not fear. That's doubt, hesitation, and anxiety, which are 3 different levels of things that everyone has to individually deal with.
Yes. Now, positive fear is if you're on a plane and both engines have stopped. There is that sort of awareness, or you can see a bull charging at you, or maybe you can come up with a better analogy.
That's a mortality fear.
Okay.
Well, a mortality choice point. It says take fear out of that term. Fear is something there, and again, we have acronyms like fear porn, so that anyone can defend their belief. You're just a fear porn promoter.
Yeah.
Okay. You're the Brokeback Mountain of fear porn. Okay. Okay. No, you're seeing it through that lens and presenting that, or allowing that lens to give you that through your perception and your own deception filters internalized. Fear is the mind killer. It stops the mind from seeing the many different perspectives and ways to learn from something that is an adrenal gland, creates an adrenal response.
Yep.
So that you're in fight, flight, or freeze. If information charges you into adrenal gland response, that is a fear, a frequency projected at you that the sympathetic and parasympathetic natural body functions react to. The mind is going through all these permutations and computations to determine fight, flight, or freeze.
Yes.
Okay? And oftentimes, the sympathetic and parasympathetic body, because it's programmed with this belief engine, sees all of these words, coronavirus, quarantine, fuck it, I don't need to pay attention to it. Or it's all the Team Dark doing this, creating a wall of its own false evidence to appear real.
Yes, yeah. And so it's because, I mean, we got to the point where Chuck D sharing on Instagram just investigating 5G because that's just one. There's probably 27 different versions of what the coronavirus is and what is actually happening. And that's just one
none
angle.
None of them are real.
Yeah, and so I'm glad you're on. It's kind of interesting and strange and weird and serendipitous or synchronistic that you're on here right now for the show while this is all going on, and I can ask you questions. Because for me, my bubble, nothing's really changed. Mind you, I'm a hermit, so I just go outside and buy food.
Yes, things have changed for you. You're just not perceiving the subtlety how things have changed for you.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yeah. Well, I am doing more of this, so that is true. So I'll give you that one.
There's more. There's far more. Okay?
Yeah, I'm sure there is.
Your round tables are surrounded by it. It's very much affecting you.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, to finish off this false evidence appearing real, meaning internal programs create a wall that they only see their bubble as shit.
Okay. Yeah.
And then information from news sources comes in. It has to go through the perception deception filter of your own wall of false evidence appearing real, which then creates an analysis inside your brain that is a part of your belief engine. Yeah. That's why the whole point of spirituality is to see your wall you create and to deconstruct it. So it is not just noise filling up your CPU power.
Okay, because people get affected by fear and they freak out, but there's a small minority, a small percentage, where people are rejecting and calling it the virus a hoax.
That's denial. That's denial.
So is that not dealing with instead of dealing with the fear, they've just gone a step further? It was like, nah, whatever, washing my hands.
That is their wall. False evidence appearing real is a block of one thing. My bubble is my bubble and cannot be influenced by others. It's like if you have a full-on Bible-thumping Christian who believes in the word of the Lord and you try to talk to them that God did not create the world 6,000 years ago, they're not going to hear you.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
They may listen, but you're not going to change. You have no potential of changing them. That's a wall of denial. No.
Yes.
You can't change me. But a lot of people who have their wall of fear, false evidence appearing real, there are certain subject matters that can laser right through them and change their evidence overnight or in one statement. Yeah. And those people are truly the most harsh ones because their belief changes all the time. Like, why did flat Earth take over? Okay, all that other shit. It's because their wall had all these points that could be penetrated by asymmetrical observations and linear implementations of fear. Something that implemented a fight, flight, or freeze response in which your brain and all its synaptic pathways had to process as part of your belief engine. And some information changes you from a 2-liter belief engine to a 10-liter belief engine.
Well, yeah, because in certain ways, a lot of theories that are put forward, they sound logical unless you analyze it completely, and then you find there's a little flaw here, like going sort of Spock, where like from Star Trek, where the logic you put forward is undeniable, but then you've got like the shape of the planet, where it's like, oh, that's enough, and I step into it and I believe that, except, well, what about this bit here? Oh, I've made a choice and I'm ignoring that. So it's fascinating.
Choices have choice points of adherence.
Yeah.
And it's another form of mental equation that people don't realize they create. There was a choice point of adherence where you said, this is who I'm going to be. And 40 years later, that's who you are. Yeah. There are other choice points of adherence, like when somebody chooses to use faith because something happened, or somebody chooses to be an atheist because something didn't happen.
Yes.
So these choice points of adherence are a standing frequency inside you that can't be changed by information.
All right.
Information itself has been weaponized to pull away these choice points of adherence.
2012 is a good example, because I've known someone who said, like, because nothing happened on 2012, all of it was bullshit.
Exactly. And the whole industry fell apart.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, for me, I was more because I know you did like 36 hours straight or something. I'm talking about 2012, where it was the show was called Nothing Will Happen.
Yes, and nothing is happening tomorrow marathon.
Yeah,
on the December 21st, 2012. Yes.
For me, the way, like, nothing did happen. There was one thing that happened where it was probably just a small energetic change somewhere, where it's like, I'll just flick this, I'll move my pen 2 centimeters to the left, and then from that, we're here now. But it was always portrayed as like, at 11:11, the sky's going to turn purple. You'll grow a second head, and like, it was all because it wasn't
right. None of it happened. I like to relate to December 21st, 2012. You wake up in the morning, you have your first sip of coffee, and you got to go do your morning constitution. You sit down, maybe you're reading your newspaper, and you realize, oh shit, I'm out of toilet paper.
Yeah.
You reach over and get another roll, finish yourself off. That's what 2012 was. There was no roll of toilet paper there when you sat down.
Yeah.
Because we have all the shit to deal with, so that we can truly realize what 2012 means as a long-term opportunity to create internal change solely for yourself.
Yes. I phrase it slightly differently, but you the way you say it makes more sense. Whereas, like, something small just happened, and we're at this point now because that, looking in hindsight, that was the change point. But at that point, it was just another gorgeous day where everything was almost 99.99999 the same.
Mm-hmm. So something else is in August 2014. People talk about the event is coming.
Yes.
Why say the event happened August 4th, 2014? And now it's waiting for you to accept it.
Well, that sort of falls in because with my I don't speak to because I'm an observer. I love the great joke from the movie Dogma. They're watchers. Guess what they do? I'm a watcher. So I just an observer. So on my radar, best way to explain it is religious. Like, I would look at what the Jewish people are doing, what the Christians are doing, what the just everyone. They're being put forward. It's roughly the same, but the language changes. And there's a small group of people that I check out occasionally where they've been looping since 2014, where their perception is that someone's been Team Dark has, like, we've gone through the same year over and over. Like, the numbers have changed, but we're still energetically doing the same thing.
And what that is their dogmas are running over everyone else's karmas.
Yeah.
They're stuck in their own dogma, and they're running around saying it is this. No, it isn't.
Yeah.
It's what you individually believe, and if that's what you individually believe, that's your truth. It's not everyone else's truth.
Yes, that's one thing I've noticed, like the kaleidoscope of creation. It could mean it means everything, and if people say, if I actually have to pick a religion, I'm going with Jedi because it's got better merchandise.
Merchandising, exactly.
Merchandising, yes. And it's half Christian, half Buddhist, and it resonates with me. And it changes all the time. Instead of like Christendom's got 33,000 different versions of of Christ's house. It's like God's house. Well, that doesn't sound good because they all think they're right. Why does just one thing? And if that Jewish Palestinian comes back, it's like, I think you're missing the point. Like, for me, I'm going to probably upset some Irish people. Northern Ireland still blows my mind. You got a Christian fighting Christian, and I don't think they read the book, where it's like, pretty
love
each other,
or those 10 commandment things.
Yeah, love your brother or love your neighbor like your brother. And it's like, I don't want to. He wears orange. I'm gonna punch him in the face.
Right. So something when it comes to all these different, everyone believes in something. This is what I've said since very early in 2012. There's going to come a point where everyone's belief engine is driving this massive train. So there's tens of thousands of trains from all these different cultures, all heading to a central point. They're all going to crash into each other. And what are they going to realize? Everyone's truth is their truth. Can you accept it and not judge it?
And
that's the great awakening in a metaphorical nutshell. Can you accept that everyone can have their own truth, no matter how crazy it is?
Yeah, as long as they're not doing any harm. For me,
even if they're doing harm, there's layers after that where there is still a morality aspect to that belief engine. If somebody's coming in with a plague train and with intent of killing everyone else and saying, "Ha, I win," we'll learn that truth is not competitional and is not obligated to make sense to you.
Yes. Because in my reality, there's the Fourth Reich of the Nazis living on the South Pole. So it'd be interesting when they turn up. Hello.
Exactly.
We've got a lot of spacecrafts. Anti-grav, yeah. It'd be interesting. And what's that Chinese curse? May you live in interesting times. Mm-hmm. We are. Yeah. Also, Now, any hint of how long this is going to go on for? Or is time being manipulated as well? Because maybe I need a lie down, but I'm feeling tired spiritually, or I'm stuck in a loop, to quote the band Cog. Stuck in a loop and I feel ordinary is the thing. It's but it looks like, I think a lot of people, the virus is part of the awakening, I think, because a lot of people are waking up.
It very much is a part of it, and it'll be a continuing part of it. Yeah. And it's a matter of, as people peel back the many layers to the infinite onion, they'll have aha moment after aha moment. But will they remember their first aha moment and the 9 aha moments after that and allow them to be victories? So many people have these great advancements but don't honor that or chronicle that as a victory. Therefore, the next piece of information changes them and all the aha moments are just erased.
Yeah.
I have a great quote here, and I'll have you read it. I just put it in the chat there.
Yeah. The lack of ability to recognize your innate talents to read maps will... Oh, it disappeared. I'm getting used to this Skypey-wipey. There we go. Now I can read it. The lack of ability to recognize your innate talents to read maps will not have the byproduct of understanding truth automatically. You need to own your ability to read through practice and trial and error, and that has self-acceptance, self-validation through victories of understanding the ever-evolving truth.
And that is the next layer of understanding how the coronavirus is going to be a part of the awakening. It's going to be an ever-evolving truth. 6 months ago, there was no coronavirus. It wasn't a part of the evolving truth. 6 months from now, there's going to be a whole different sets of truths that are stacked and stacked and stacked and stacked and layered.
Yeah, I guess that's now is that sort of fueling the multiple theories that are being put forward, where everyone's this, or they're trying to find a truth for it, or are they trying to find acceptance of why it's in their reality now?
And I'm going to give you another quote to answer the question.
All right.
Here you go.
No one in this world is obligated to match your version of the truth. Truth is a resonance frequency via effort, investigation, will, and self-discovery. Like attracts like in the realms of truth. That that makes sense. Because I see the groups, it's like people are together for a while, and then their frequency splits off, and they go to smaller groups, and very similar, but this person's over there and that person's over there.
Now, to finish it, I'm going to give you one more quote. These are all things that I do regularly in my radio shows, and I've come up with all sorts of these quotes to help people answer these exact questions. So here's the next one.
All right. Life as we know it is going through a redefining process. Yeah. Who knows? Who knows when and where are still in infinite potential of outcomes. We at this moment and many moments to come have obligation to ourselves to make humans great again. Oh, look out. I may have to wear a red cap. Actually, I do have a red cap. It says "Made you look again." I should start wearing it. Sorry, I interrupted. You were going to say something.
So we are at the point of making humans great again, taking us out of this wall of infinite fear we have around ourselves and replace it with our truths that we know.
Yeah, and I get elements of that would be always being told you're not good enough or thinking that you're not good enough.
Knowing truth is your responsibility and no one else's.
And that's the fascinating thing about it as well, where we're not telling you what to think. We're just telling you to think in that respect, where if you want to move to Fiji and eat bananas for 8 months, do that. Because if you feel it on a soul level, most likely that's what you want to do.
Okay. I have one more quote here. Humanity has many choices in these infinite moments of now. It takes one choice to summon courage, be vigilant, and know your actions are supported by the universe. The universe is not working against you. It's working for you. To learn this as a truth, you work with spirit, just spirit, and know the path is not broken, the way is clear. Our ancestors have mapped this out for us long ago. Now we must learn to read the maps and follow the path to greater awareness.
Is that linked to enthusiastic effort?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the enthusiastic effort, what's the map? It's all of the data that's around you that you have to choose to put on your map.
Yeah, there's elements of free will where it's like I wonder if this statement makes sense. The higher self point that way, but you choose how to go that way. Once you recognize the direction you want to go in, you can go any way you want. And a lot of people probably they're afraid of their own power, and so when they get the higher self going that way, they do a 180 and run away for whatever reason from the society being, life is hard and life is tragic. That constant reinforcement of everything sucks, and you can see that in entertainment where when was the last time you saw a TV show or a film where it was just fun and entertaining?
For fun and entertaining sake.
Yeah, just fun, and that's why.
That's why I like stand-up comedians.
Yes, Bill Burr and David Chappelle. They're recent ones where they're sort of not attacking the wokeness, but they're observing it, and it's fun. They make it entertaining in a fun way, because that's what's missing. Where it's the SJW woke crowd, where it's you have to do this. Oh my God! It's the constant vibration of poor me. I guess.
So when it comes to fear and what's going to come up for the coronavirus, I got another quote. External validation is not a remedy for uncertainty or hesitation that breeds doubt in your divine nature.
Ooh.
That is something we allow in our life, doubt in our own divine nature. Whatever it is you believe, even if you're an atheist, you have to believe in your genius then. That's divine in its own way. You don't have to use the divinity if you're an atheist. Once we allow doubt and hesitation through external validation is where the crazy sides of information about the coronavirus, the ones that say that the coronavirus is totally a hoax and it's only there to get Trump out of office.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. That's so ridiculous. But I got to allow them to think that. I can't judge them. I'm calling it ridiculous as a statement because my belief in does not compute. I learned this a long time ago, ABC 1, 2, 3, and that my set of equations and how the world works goes, the world does not evolve around Trump.
Yes, yeah. There's that element of Trump derangement syndrome. But also, to add to that, It's very, some of those TDSs are
Mhm.
very dark. They hope he dies from the virus. I'm like, you get pence. Do you want pence? Because that's how you'll get pence. But at the same time, of China released the virus to take out Trump, but then you have one step to the left, just a direction, not an aisle. The virus was there to cover from the economy collapsing. uh, how can you have those two at the same time? But also, the virus seems to be causing the collapse, and then that's
And it
another.
is 100% causing the collapse.
Yes,
If you
yeah, and
actually
that's
look at the market data, the actual charts
yeah.
that show you data, it is the
Hmm.
virus that's imploding. Guess what? A fake economy that they could have been led on for another 20 years. And every year they would have one or two big drops just to scare the shit out of people and to
Yep,
redistribute money. They very
yep,
easily could have kept this scam going and going and going. And they're
yeah,
using all their scam tools now. Like they just put $1.5 trillion in liquidity in, and it still backfired on them
yeah.
because the
Nothing. Yeah.
money, the Babylonian money magic spells aren't working.
Now, is that because human resonance and humanity's moved up in the frequency, or the spell has just been worn thin after 5,000 years, or a bit of both?
It's worn thin, and humanity is at a choice, a place where the energy that's being harvested from them to run the belief engine of the world, they're not giving it to them anymore.
Yeah,
They've made their own no, and then there are other people that are giving it all away and keeping that belief engine running, and people are starting to claw back their fuel they're giving to the engine.
yep, yeah, yeah.
And when it comes to the money, in 2008, not one banker went to jail.
No, no.
Not one banker. And the stock market people know this. They
Yeah,
absolutely know it. And they know it's a fake economy since 2001.
yeah. And also,
Since
I think
9/11, it's been totally 100% fake.
yeah, and I think from a public perspective, the Lehman Brothers were sacrificed so something could be put up, like because they collapsed, unless that was a business move. But no one went into jail. In the film, The Big Short, it's Steve
Yep,
Carell's character
yep,
that points
yeah.
out. It's
Love the
like,
movie.
yeah, they point out at
So,
the end they knew they knew what they were doing. They knew the government will bail them out, and
right.
so they made money from the government, which
But why
probably
didn't they?
borrowed from the
Why,
Fed.
well, the thing is, why didn't they bail out Lehman? Was Lehman the sacrificial lamb? No, it wasn't.
Oh, okay.
Lehman, because of its bankruptcy and how it happened, covered up a lot of very dark black project funding scenarios
All right.
that were funding secret space program, DNA testing, some nasty, nasty shit that was
Yeah.
bundled on AAA securities and put on as mortgages. But it was actually
Okay.
funding some really dark, 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 evil shit. And that's why they let it collapse.
All right. Okay.
Right.
Because I've
It was a way to
jokingly.
get it off their books.
Yeah. 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 Like the day before 9/11, 9/10, in the
Yeah.
American parlance, Rumsfeld said, we've lost $2 trillion at the Pentagon. And then,
Oops.
like, yeah, 2008 or something around there, oh, we've lost 16 trillion, no,
Really?
6 trillion. And I think the latest one last year is we've lost 21 trillion. My question to you, Andrew, is how big of a couch does the Pentagon have? Because they're losing money all
Huge.
down the back.
Huge.
Yeah, it's a huge
So,
couch.
right, there's two banking systems now: public narrative banking system and secret narrative banking system.
Yeah.
There's an entire solar system that has been built out with facilities, hotels, everything you can think of, that has a
Yep.
whole separate narrative and a banking system. And the public narrative has been secretly funding the secret narrative, and now they don't match up. That's why
So,
all these banks are leveled 600%, because they made fake cash, fiat-based cash here, so they can
yeah.
have real investment up there.
Oh, yeah. So is that the breakaway civilization people refer
Yes.
to?
Yes.
All right. Now, is that part of disclosure where the general public will know about this, or are they too far ahead where it's like
Well,
Star
there's
Trek now, or?
so this coronavirus is creating some very screwy scenarios where the secret banking system will inevitably get revealed,
Yes.
whether
Yeah,
accidentally on purpose, or a year after, a few years from now, when things kind of calm down, that they will have made some significant mistakes and information's going to leak. Or you have whistleblowers that come out and say there's a completely secret banking system separate of the SWIFT system.
Yep, yeah. Because you have mentioned that a possible turning point is the virus gets so out of hand that a beyond science machine or cure or something will be expressed to save people, and then we'll go, hang on, this doesn't make sense in the paradigm that we have.
Correct.
And
all that stuff's was available even before the virus started.
Yes.
Right. So there's semi-secret health technologies that can come out, and these will be groundbreaking technologies that will challenge science to believe in them. And then there are other sciences that, physics says there's impossible to happen.
Yeah.
And you can't introduce something that's totally against the laws of physics. Example, like there's technology out there that can scan a human body, look for every individual virus cell, ACE2 inhibitor that's infected, teleport it out of the body, and teleport in clean blood cells.
Oh, okay. I just thought of Keith Richards. Yeah.
Worldwide, this could be done.
Yeah.
And not just one person, not one person at every time. All 7,300,000,000 human beings could all have it. All of them. Yes, that's how under control our society is. We are a farm.
Yeah. Because I had a slogan for my roundtable where I'm tainting loosh since 2015. It's like, well, if you're going to have loosh, I'm going to put some comedy in there and then stuff it up. Right. One thing you have mentioned before is that with this healing technology, it can actually unlock the potential of the DNA or repair the damage, because in a way, old age is technically a disease, isn't it?
It's belief.
Yeah, it's a belief. Yeah.
Belief.
Yeah, because even in the Bible, they lived up to 900 years. Yes. So, wow. I'm kind of glad that we're here to see this, because we'll remember, like, being a Gen Xer, I'm living in the 21st century now, which kind of sometimes blows my mind, 2020. But, seeing millennials and young people, I refer to things from the 20th century, which is only 20 years ago. And they look at you with that fluoride stare, like, what?
Uh-huh.
Like, have you seen that video of the two teenagers were given a rotary phone, and they have to figure out how to make a call? Well, hang on, it's only been 20 years, and yet it's like, it's fascinating how you jump forward and things get forgotten, and then you have people like us, and like they keep calling Gen Xers boomers, and like, you're wrong. We're not part of the baby boomer. But I can see the insult for it. It's like, yeah, very funny. But also now the response is, okay, Zoomer, because they're Gen Z, and they're still doing that divide and conquer of generations. Mm-hmm. But it's fascinating to see when we jump from buying a new iPhone to, say, in 3 years, my handheld device could teleport me to Pluto.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, something the millennials are going to be facing is enthusiastic effort. That was never taught to them. And they were grown up to be entitled. They tried doing it to Gen Xers to make us the entitled generation, but we still had to go out and make shit happen for us.
Yep.
Before before the internet came out in 1990, we went out and played and did stuff. We didn't have video games. Yes. We had a Nintendo, an 8-bit Nintendo with 4 games.
The best example
broke all the time, right?
Yeah, the best example of Gen X, and I hand it to you, sir, is from The Simpsons, where they're on TV. It's like, oh yeah, we're just trying to get the Gen Xers, and they cut to a kid with a strange haircut, and he just goes, yeah, groovy.
Yeah, groovy. That's pretty much because we were stuck between I know this is going to sound bad, the idiot hippies who had become corrupted hippies and were trying to teach social justice to us, and we're like, fuck you sound like idiots, because we were waking up to the global narrative that the hippies were this and the Republicans were this, and we didn't want anything to do with it.
Yes, and there's that sort of disdain, and like then you have Kurt Cobain, who unfortunately, like, he just wanted to be a great performer, from my understanding, but he hated the fame and poster boy and all that shit that was lumped on him. But there is that, and we're called slackers. That's what we're like. You're a slacker. It's like, no, I just don't want to deal with your crap that you're putting in front of us. And then you have the next generation, which is the millennials, where it's like, I want an award because I turned up. Where's my award?
That's that entitledness.
Yeah.
And that was bred into them at a very early age. And they have a very difficult time of accessing natural enthusiastic effort. Yeah. Okay? Where you and I, we know how to make our stupid ass G.I. Joe guy make us have fun when we were a kid.
Yep.
Versus playing the video game and using the video game to make your character with the digital shit. Yeah. It's got this kind of hair and this, and your creativity's there instead of hands-on. That's the difference between us.
Yeah, and we can cook.
Right. We can cook. We don't just make avocado toast. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. $20. It's like, $20? I could buy 10 loaves for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I love it. Some comedian, I can't remember, I do apologize because I like giving credit, but a comedian pointed out, like, I opened one of these avocados and I won a wooden bowl. Get a different prize, guys. It's like, get a different prize.
And to not knock on millennials, but the fact of having a difficulty of accessing enthusiastic effort, it is such a bane to natural motion in existence. It means you really have to summon deep, deep, deep courage for long periods of time and then exercise that muscle of enthusiastic effort.
Yeah, because I know we're loosely using the term millennial because there's a certain degree of backlash in the millennials because they've seen other millennials going, I don't want to be like them, and they're super awesome, and then and also that sort of bleeds over to Generation Z or Z, whatever you want to call it, where there's that reaction from seeing millennials. It's like, you're all crazy, all right? And then you have, I look at certain people, like when I was working at a bakery block, major chain, I felt diminished from an 8-year-old who had manners. It just freaked me out. It's like, excuse me, sir, I would like this. All right, dear God. Like, you can see, when you meet a perfect human and they're 7. Yeah,
I got it. Yeah. So the irony is, so many people call the baby boomers, who are people born after the war. Like, my mom's in her 80s, and she's from the forgotten generation. And the majority of the people that we call boomers, 40% of the people we call boomers are the forgotten generation. The ones that had a whole different reality of growing up. They knew what the Depression was.
Oh, yeah, before the Depression, because my dad's 42, so he's during the war, so he's probably the tail end. My grandmother, she passed when she was 97. And met up with Granddad, who passed. Like, I never met him. He died 7 years before me. Anyway, too much personal history. But I never waste food because I got taught from. She went to work at 14 because she was in the Depression, and I'm a light Nazi. Like, if I leave a room, I turn the light off. It's that's traveled through the generations. And I know what you mean. It's there's this thing of, like, you have no idea what it's like to have nothing and no outlook and still survive.
No hope. And no hope.
Right. And the only hope you have is, I won't let this beat me. There's that determination of, like, I'm doing this.
That's the crux of the coronavirus. Who will accept the truth of the world's gonna change, but I won't let it beat me.
Yeah, well, that's sort of...
See, so many of the conspiracy peoples are flogging themselves with all of these theories, and they've already beaten themselves. Instead of just accepting the world's changing, okay, and it's all sorts of things are going to come up to stop beating yourself with it. Stop flogging yourself with it.
Yeah.
Kind of enjoy it. If you're getting joy out of conspiracy for conspiracy's sake, you've lost the whole point of conspiracy theorying.
Yes, yeah. Yeah.
The point was to tell the truth.
Yeah, well, that's the. I mean, it's not really. It's only a theory because you're trying to find the truth. Once you find the truth, it's not a theory.
Right.
It-
But theory could see the millennials and Gen Xers and Gen Yers do this a lot. They play the conspiracy game.
yeah.
Okay, and it's a game to them.
Mhm.
Where the 50-year-old yoga mom that's super into conspiracy and into 5G and all this other stuff, it's real to her. That 5G is gonna kill your ass.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's not gonna kill your ass. It's no different than the extremely low frequencies coming out of submarines, killing half the whales in the ocean.
Yeah.
All this shit's been there. But
Yeah.
they like to make these viral topics that people get spun up about.
Yeah, that's are they tapping into the energy, or are they being used for energy, if that makes sense?
Absolutely. All of the above. They're tapped into, used for energy, and becoming a mouthpiece so conspiracy dumbs down the rest of society.
Yeah, because there is that blowback. Even like I haven't put it in for a while, but you put into a search engine. I don't use Google. There, I said it. But I'm on YouTube, which is Google. There, I said it. How many conspiracy theories were right? And as we keep moving further down the Pope's work schedule, it's bang, 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 bang. I think, was it Ernest Hemingway during the war years said they've got concentration camps and they're killing all these people, and no one believed him until the Russians got to Auschwitz.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one day after this we're going to sit down and have a look at what actually happened during World War II. You know, it's not really because
it's not what they told you. It's definitely not what they told you.
Yeah,
a lot of shit.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. There's a 6-hour documentary which I'm not saying that's truth, but it's fascinating. Like, okay, well, if Hitler is a psycho genocidal fuckhead, as Eddie Izzard pointed out, you don't want to kill 85,000 Germans like the Polish did. You know, little things like that. Anyway, it's gonna there is I like the John Lennon quote. In the end, it's going to be all right in the end, and if it's not all right, it's not the end. And that's sort of where the virus is, because I like the term you've put forward, the forced evolution on this planet. This is the start, not the event. I hate saying the event. The change. This is like one major step towards change, whatever that is.
I call it like a colon cleanse.
Yeah.
The world's on a metaphorical quarantine colon cleanse, and it's going to be many turds the size of telephone poles are going to be coming out to clear your intestinal tract of belief.
Okay, well, a good question for you now then. What can you share for people to survive through this then? Obviously not getting the virus and dying. What else can you share?
Learn to have some form of entertainment that isn't watching the news.
So a lot of YouTube then, or Netflix.
No, you got to turn that off. You could still go outside and get fresh air and sunlight.
Yes.
You need to be able to practice disconnecting. Most people have never been off longer of work of 2 weeks unless they've been out of work. You got to be able to use this time, because your body's circadian rhythm says get up, get dressed, have breakfast, see the kids off, go to work, stay at work. Your body's still going to be on that rhythm. Break that rhythm. Sleep in. Sleep in.
Yeah, turn the alarm off. Let the body wake up.
Yeah, turn the alarm off and begin to deprogram yourself of some of these things that work has forced you to do. You will have time to meditate. You will have time to do spiritual things. You will have time to paint. You will have time to do that. Will you give yourself it?
Yes. One thought that just came up now, an element of survival mode will be wage and money, because
that's going to be something the government's going to have to determine. Save the banks or fuck the people, or save the people and don't allow the banks, reorganize the banks afterwards. Right now, financial crimes against humanity are being done attempting to save the banks instead of saving the human beings.
But the human beings are the true wealth.
Technically.
Yes, technically. It's a long bow.
You ask the banks that, no way, they're the system of wealth.
Yeah.
But
they're weaponized.
Exactly. When we get through this, we can't allow corruption and banksters to come back. But when we get out of quarantine, we're going to march like motherfuckers and tell the government no. That's something else that has to be done in quarantine. Is people got to organize in such a way so that they can begin effective learning of what we're not going to allow happen once this is over.
Yes, because either it's in my mind or you've shared as well, probably the same thing, that it's exposed the banking system, the financial system. Governments have no idea what they're doing. The health system needs a massive shake-up because they've ignored this pandemic, like they've got no plans for anything else like that. The element of through the financial system is the idea of money, where if they're pumping all this money just to prop up the banks, imagine if you actually gave that to people and they spent it. And automation as well. If half the workforce can work from home, why aren't they working from home? I can see massive. We have to get through it, of course. Which, but so I can see massive change from it.
The survival techniques of this coronavirus is to not get into fear and not empower your wall of false evidence appearing real.
Yeah.
Like I said at the beginning, you have a wall of information in front of you. Begin to break down that wall. You will have time. Will you give yourself the opportunity to do it? This might be the time you write your book. This might be the time you learn to sing and dance. This is the time to play guitar. This is the time to talk to somebody on Skype that you haven't talked to in a long time. This is the time to listen to those podcasts that the conspiracy theorists have been telling you to listen to forever. Okay? This is the time you get to do that out of free will and choice because you're not forced to go to work 40 hours and sell your soul to the dollar devil.
So it's in a way you're moving from one survival mode to a much lesser quiet survival mode,
thriving mode.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Because I like
the natural fear of what to do without dollar bills. Humanity's going to come together. It's shown it over and over and over again. Yeah, there will be isolated cases of hoarding and people being idiots, but people will come together. People will come together. And there's also going to come a point where the individual local governments are going to realize the federal government is completely inept and is not going to come in to save us. And we're going to start organizing, and the federal government's going to try to take control. They're going to put our middle fingers up to them and say, no, go away.
Yes. Yeah.
And then they're going to have, since coronavirus will be everywhere, there'll be nobody in the government offices, and they're just going to start supporting their local communities. Then the federal government will be a hollow paper tiger.
Well, because since the end of World War II, I think across the planet, but it's not Big Brother, it's Big Mother. The government's there. It's, we're your parent. We know what's right for you. We'll save you. And this has been exposed. They're not.
It's Big Stepmother. It's Big Stepmother. Big Angry Stepmother.
Yes, Big Angry is like, hasn't gotten over the divorce and is taking it out on the new kids. And I can see that it's not going to work because humanity. Like I heard people taking. A friend of mine was at a supermarket and there was an elderly gentleman there. Half the store's empty. Had no idea what he's looking after his wife who's got dementia. And the short version of the story is that about 20 people gave him food and some money to buy some actual stuff. Yeah, I'm sure it's happened in America, but here in Australia, usually in these natural disasters, everyone downs tools and let's help each other out. So
exactly, and that'll happen here too. Like I said, there will be plenty of individuated stories of assholes being assholes and hoarders and gougers being gougers, but those are minor in the comparison of the grandness of what's going to be happening in 6, 7, 8 months. Now, how media responds to this is ultimately going to determine the level of, is this heavy metal or is this death metal fear porn? Or is it a love song fear porn? Okay,
Yep.
Okay, and there's two different frequencies. If it's straight up death metal fear porn versus you lost your lover song. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So with the coronavirus, how, with its placement in its now, because you've mentioned before that it didn't turn up, it wouldn't be ready 6 months ago, or it wouldn't fit into the narrative 10 years ago. How is it changing the paradigm? Because is that the schism that we're seeing at the moment, with everyone freaking out buying toilet paper and the government's falling over themselves?
No, that's just from the idiocracy running the mediocrity. They're buying the toilet paper because the idiocracy that's running the mediocrity is forcing an ill-prepared society to come out of their haze of, I want my sports, I want my instant gratification, everything's been fine, the stock market's never been higher, the joys of living with your head in the sand, of the ultimate cues of reality going on. And then the idiocracy that's completely ill-prepared to have this type of brand new novel virus come out. Like here in the United States, they should have started a month and a half ago. They have no testing kits. Right now, there was only 75,000 testing kits until this last week, where they finally figured out how to make a bunch more.
Yeah, and the population of the United States is, what, 330 million? So 70,
80 million citizens.
Yeah, that's still... Yeah, well, of course. The people are enjoying that Mexico's closing the border. It's slightly ironic. But the 75,000, that could probably that wouldn't even cover California for a week, would it?
That wouldn't cover California for an hour.
Yeah, that's a better way of explaining it. Worse, but yes, that's a better way of explaining it.
They're saving it for sports stars and movie stars. That's why no one can get a test.
Well, that kind of explains what there's an element of famous people or politicians that seem to be getting it.
Right. And not
yeah.
Here denying that happens, but that's the truth of what's going on. So next week, they're going to mail out 1 million test kits, which isn't even enough for one day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not one day. For the people that have already been confirmed, this person has coronavirus, and I stayed in the house with him for 5 days. Okay.
Yeah.
That's not even enough. That's not even enough for that first group of people that are already in self isolation.
Yeah.
We need an immediate access to 35 million kits to catch up to the testing process. And this is why the government is so rushing this so fast. Because once they get the production of the kits up, they're going to realize that you're looking at 35% of the population is infected. And before they can do anything, and the social distancing and everything, you're looking at 60 to 70% of the population being exposed to the virus.
And I saw someone mention
first.
Yeah, the homeless.
Correct.
Just
a giant homeless community.
Yeah. I mean, they've actually got Black Plague, but you can get rid of that through sanitation. But this is very, very different. Also, very quickly,
most people are asymptomatic, meaning they don't show any sickness, no fever, no nothing, and they become super spreaders. And it could take 30 days for you to gestate in your body, and you're a spreader the entire time.
Yep. Also, for those watching, we did have a break, and that's why Andrew's headphones have disappeared.
Yes.
It's like, wait a minute. So, just keeping it real, y'all. If you want to get them, you can. It's just, I think we're because the echo, I'm stepping on you. So
yeah, let me go grab my headphones. 1 second.
All right, so we'll just quickly pause, and we'll be back. Yeah. And so we're back. Another time travel, which is interesting. That's what I call daylight savings now. Time travel.
Instant headphones manifestation.
Depending on my editing, but yes. So yeah, we're talking. Well, I'm sure we did mention it actually. The virus seems to be exposing the old systems that is cracking, and because it's not the virus itself that is highly dangerous. It's the lack of response, isn't it? Is that a one way of saying it? Because the infrastructure's not there, and governments are governments.
And it won't be there for quite some time. So I liken it to a long-term cocaine binge. And that's what our economy's been.
Yeah.
And the dealer's not going to give any more out right now.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And then coronavirus comes. Or the dealer was about to give a whole bunch of free drugs to keep the economy going further and further, and the coronavirus cops come out.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I just from your suggestion, I watched Contagion, the movie, and completely different virus.
Right.
Because it 48 hours you're dead because it attacks the brain cell, and it's not. Watch it without fear. Watch it more of like it's not a different time. Like it's a story of how everything responds, and humanity survives, the government survives, sort of, but we can get through this, and that was just a natural thing. It's fascinating to see how it all unfolds, and where yes, there's procedures and everything else like that. However, there's so many holes and cracks, and you're dealing with humans.
So let me touch on why the overwhelmed infrastructure creates this exorbitant overreaction to what's going on. Because in all reality, it isn't an overreaction. Because right now, here in the United States, there are only 100,000 ICU beds of all the hospitals combined. 100,000.
So that's 2,000. Sorry, 2,000 per state.
Right.
Ish. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Right. 2,000 per state. Now, 80% of those beds are occupied by pre-existing surgeries and stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
So you come with a virus that has an R-naught ratio of 4.4 to 6.7. That's what this virus means. So every person that gets it, it can infect 4 to 6 other people every day. So you have what's called a logarithmic scale. So after 4 days, 10 days, 20 days, one person can infect tens of thousands.
Yes.
Okay? And if you have 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 people, you're getting into the millions infected every day. And so the hospitals don't have proper protective equipment, are not trained to deal with a highly communicable disease like this. So your hospital staff will get sick. Your beds, there won't be a bed for mom or dad or aunt or uncle to go to. So every corner of the hospital is going to be filled up with a patient, and people are going to start to die because there's not enough nursing staff to go over all the symptoms. Because what this virus does, it gives you a really bad pneumonia. And once you have a really bad pneumonia, you have to have 2 to 3 to 4 people per shift watching over you, watching the majority of your numbers, what your oxygen blood level is.
Right, and we're back because I had a power cut. Huzzah! I don't think it was because of what Andrew was saying. I love when people say that, oh, we're being cut because we're being listened into. It's like, nah, just transported and click over quickly enough, I would say. We'll let you finish your thought or your thought idea, and then we can talk about how infrastructure will survive. With you got to keep power on because people get cranky. However, you were talking about exponential rate of spreading.
Right.
Yeah.
So hospital beds, there's only 100,000 hospital ICU beds here in the United States. And what they're talking about in our modern news now is to bring in the Army Corps of Engineers to create special hospitals. The same thing they did in China where they built a hospital in 10 days. That means they need to have ventilators. So when we got cut off, what I was talking about is hospitals. Every corner of a hospital will be filled up with a bed. And once you get an advanced form of pneumonia, every shift it requires 2 to 3 to 4 nurses and specialized doctor practitioners to watch your numbers, especially your blood oxygen levels, because many people can survive the pneumonia. There are techniques that they can do where they can regularly drain the lungs. And the people that survive the advanced pneumonia have very scarred lungs. But there also comes to a point where you can't survive the pneumonia. There's nothing else that they can do, and they've got to let you go. Right now in Italy, they have doctors who, let's say you have an 85-year-old man with cancer and a 45-year-old woman that's perfectly healthy, both with pneumonia. Who do you give a bed to? They give the bed to the 45-year-old woman.
Yes. They have mentioned that I think 80 years old is the cutoff here in Australia, I believe.
Getting a bed. So that's the things that when the hospital system is overwhelmed, and the nurses start getting sick and the doctors start getting sick, that's what creates the complete utter chaos if you're not prepared. Now,
Yes.
the extreme levels that they're going to now is because they already know it's running rampant and out of control. And as soon as they start testing and the hospitals start filling up with people with pneumonia, the 80-year-old women and the 70-year-old women and men that are in nursing homes, like right now in Italy, I don't know if you know this, Italy is one giant nursing home for nuns and priests. Okay?
Yes. Yeah,
It's a giant nursing home. And they're getting decimated right now. Those places where the abbeys and retreats where they're at, they're getting decimated right now, because they had their Ash Wednesday, and they already knew that it spread to the Lombardy region. Okay, they already knew back in January they had breakouts of it in Italy. Okay,
it just sounds like governments across the planet reacted way too slowly, as well as the Chinese government being the Chinese government.
The idiocracy running the mediocrity. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, how do we survive this? We got to stay in quarantine for 4 to 6 to 8 months.
Now,
that's how you reduce the R naught transmissible rate.
Is that 3 waves? Because to let it play out, if that's the right way of saying it.
Well, the thing is, it burns itself out. If it can't find anybody else to go into, it burns itself out.
Okay.
So what when you go into heavy-handed lockdown like this, it reduces the R naught to 1 or under 1.
Yep.
And that's how you stop the virus. And you cannot let up the quarantine early, otherwise it will backfire and come back worse than the first one.
Yes. Now, interesting enough, from a society point of view, a lot of people have to deal with their shit because it's that instant gratification and that freedom. I'm sure part of the back of their brain is like, no, we can survive this. You know, like I've seen memes like our grandparents were called up to war. You've been asked to sit on the couch. You've got this.
Yes.
However, but there's going to, I think if you break quarantine laws here in Victoria, and we're not at that level, but getting fined $63,000 for breaking quarantine.
How are you gonna enforce it?
Yeah, and like who's got? Yeah,
that's just a scare. That's just a scare tactic.
Yeah.
What will inevitably happen? All countries are going to have to call up some version of National Guard to start saying, if you're out in the streets, okay, but you can't keep doing it all the time. There'll be some kind of organized way for you to leave the house and go, but they're not going to allow people to collect in big groups. Like you could go out to the beach, you need to get sunlight, you need to get air. You can't be locked in your house the whole time, but you cannot collect in groups. You can't have a booty call come over every night. That's the next big thing. Tinder's going to try to blow up. Okay?
Yeah.
People on breaks, and they're going to want to get their freak on. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, the memes of like there's going to be in 9 months a lot of kids being born because they're stuck in their houses.
A lot of pregnant women with pneumonia.
Yes, and that's not good either.
No. So back to the infrastructure. I want to go back to finish something on the infrastructure.
If I can lead into that, because we mentioned it earlier in the show, we haven't seen something at this scale for a century, and they had a lot of horses. They didn't have the internet and everything, like the connectivity of society. So with the infrastructure,
they didn't have ventilators back then either.
Yeah. Or even penicillin. I can't remember when that was.
Penicillin wasn't till later, right?
So now we're sort of like we're in a better place, but on the flip side, we're not. And this is where you can talk about the infrastructure because the health system here in Australia is just surviving before this.
Right, and the same here in the United States. Okay, the United States does not have the best health system in the world. The Swiss and the Germans do, and they're going to be overwhelmed too.
Yes.
Okay, they're going to be such to a point of overwhelm that they're not going to have enough doctors or nurses to replace the 30% infection rate that all nursing staff's going to go through.
Yeah, because unless everyone's got a biohazard suit and you're dealing with humans and someone can make a mistake and in Contagion,
he tore the air hose off and instantly was exposed to it.
Yeah.
In this situation, there's not enough N95 masks or full body biohazard suits, and we saw this in China where they stayed in the biohazard suit for 14 and 15 hours, and they developed, that they couldn't do that anymore, and then they started to have to burn these suits because they were highly infectious.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
So right now, the Army Corps of Engineers has been called up here in the United States so they can build hospitals in a variety of places so that they can do quarantining the right way.
Okay.
Bringing people to not quarantine in their home, but allow self-isolation with limited in and outs until such a time that the testing numbers come back and they can have a sample of how bad it is in each area. Example, here in the United States, there's 380 million people. I live in Ohio right now, and there's 16 million people in Ohio. So you need to sample 10% of the population minimum to get a statistical understanding of how bad it really is. Okay, and Ohio has 88 counties. All 88 counties have a virus already.
Yeah.
But is it going to be communicable enough, or will isolation work for it? This is how the reduction of the R-naughts. Now, the other thing is here in the United States is there are a lot of places that you got to go 40, 50 miles to get to a hospital.
Okay, yeah.
And many of them are poorly funded.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they maybe have 6 rooms. And those rural hospital systems are going to be the extreme weak link in the viral outbreak process here and the response process. This is why emergency hospitals are going to have to be set up all over the country. And this is going to go for all countries in response, that they're going to have to set up emergency facilities because the hospital systems will be so overwhelmed.
Well, yeah, because the incubation period's 14 days.
It can be as high as 32 days.
Yeah, well, that's even worse because you have to contain movement, and people don't like that.
Right, and they've known this back since the Wuhan days that it's a 30 to 35, and sometimes some scenarios a 40-day gestation period.
Yeah, yeah. I'll be sharing on my roundtables because they're unique things. However, it's not the virus. I have been telling people it's not the virus; it's the infrastructure dealing with the virus. Because
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, if you have 3 people come in and the doctor can see you and the doctor's taking precautions and you be fixed, that's great. But what happens when 5,000 people turn up to that one doctor at the same time?
Right. Yeah. And they all need ICU beds and all have extreme complications from viral pneumonia, which requires a lot of doctor attention, a lot of nurse attention, plus they're a biohazard.
Yeah, because the people that keep saying it's a hoax, there's no flu, and it's all about control, trying to control the planet. Well, enjoy that when people get sick. It's like, well, how you can't have this many crisis actors.
Exactly, but to those people out there that thinks it's a hoax, well, 6 weeks from now, it's not going to be a hoax. It's going to be in your local neighborhood. And if you're still denying it, then, oh well. When you get pneumonia, then what? It's a hoax? Okay? It's a hoax? Or your mom or your dad dies? Is it a hoax then? And they'll have to go through the shame, blame, and guilt and denial of that. We can't help those people.
Now, that's part of this is all part of the awakening because you're being isolated. Friends of mine have started to share on Facebook and social media that you are confined, but use that time wisely. Read those books, be creative, find your passion in that respect. And I can see that being part of the awakening. We may have mentioned it before in the show that humanity has a better chance of enlightenment during this to find the positive out of it instead of just going the negative. I can't go anywhere and I'm getting stir crazy. It's like, well, you can go to your backyard and you can, sunbathe or whatever it is and tap into your spiritual side of things and clear some shit, basically.
Everyone's going to have that opportunity. But will they fall for the fear, false evidence appearing real in their projections? Are they going to allow the false evidence to appear real in front of them by their own projections to the negativity? And are you going to separate from the obvious fear of, oh shit, people are starting to die today. I can't let that get to me. I got to enjoy myself today. I got to figure out how to live in quarantine with an aunt or an uncle or brother and sister or whatever, whoever's living me in my particular area, and not want to kill them. Okay?
Yes.
Because I can't go to the bar 6 days a week. Okay?
Well,
or there's no sports, or the things that kept you grounded aren't there.
Yes. What will happen to people, especially in the United States? People won't be able to get their medication.
Pharmacies will stay open, but there will be a run on medications because the precursors or the raw substances to make those mostly come from China and India. And India's already said it's not going to export that stuff anymore because it needs it for its own people.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a need. Tier 1 and Tier 2 supports of drugs are going to have to be rapidly created here. Now, that's the other side of what they're trying to do in this government rescue package here in the United States, is to start a brand new industry that's going to create their own precursor drugs so that they can make the assemblage of drugs and not outsource everything.
Yeah, I did mention that I think a couple of weeks ago that what is happening is exposing globalism, because instead of being like, you can still have trade and work together. However, like here in Australia, we don't have a auto industry anymore because it collapsed and blah, 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 and everything's made in China and all this type of stuff. It should still have, it's all about finding balance, but it's showing that the idea, the globalism that's been forced on us doesn't work.
The negative side of globalism, right?
Yeah, because that's sort of where, like, I can see the world having a one world government if it happens naturally and organically. All these stuff like one world religion, one world thing, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that makes sense once we all talk together. We don't need someone with a gun saying, do it now or I'll shoot you.
Right.
And that's, to me, I'm an optimist. I would say that we'll survive this and get through it, because someone did say once that if the New World Order actually got in charge, it would collapse in 8 months because they'll just eat themselves and fight and all that type, because it's the darkness can't survive.
I agree 100%. And to add to that, they're already fighting themselves in all different ways right now. Yeah. And it's my cat, my senile cat.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Oh, hold on. I don't want to hit him with my chair. That's why. All right. Okay, kitty. Sorry.
Yeah, he's having a senior moment. He doesn't need any excuse from you.
Right. Yes, I have a 19-year-old senile cat.
Yeah, it just makes things interesting.
Love him to death, but he has these meowing fits. Where am I? What's going on?
Are you incarnated in this? You bastards!
Right. So you were saying that Australia has no car industry. That's because they allowed it to happen.
Yeah.
The politicians allowed it to happen. Now, here in the United States, all the major car companies are shut down. Mm-hmm. Every major industry is shut down, except for the basic needs stuff. Now, we're coming into spring where there has to be a spring planting for the farms.
Yeah.
And there's no foreign labor to do that, or the Mexican labor to do that here because of coronavirus. Okay. We are going to experience food shortages. We won't experience famine, but we'll experience food shortages because globalism has done what? Takes the food from other places.
Yeah, dependency.
So no city grows its own food. That is something that will change when we get through this 6-8 months from now. That is one of the things that will happen. Each city will have its own self-supply of medicine, its own self-supply of ventilators, its own self-supply for those logistical nightmare things if this ever comes to it, because all of that was dismantled in the late 80s. We were prepared for viral outbreak in the 80s. In the late 80s, right? We were prepared for it in the late 80s.
Ooh, so be interesting once we get through this, the reaction, because it's not worth, like, people are like, where did it come from? They're trying to sort of start blaming now. It's not worth it. We have to sort of get through it and then do hindsight and look back, because hindsight is a superpower, which we all have.
Right. It's your birthright and legacy.
Yeah. That's how you learn. That's like, you don't erase history. It's very 1984. If you erase history, you may repeat it because you're not aware of it. On a personal level, that's why I'm curious of past timelines and everything else like that, because I want to know what I've learned. But on the flip side of that, it's like, I don't need to know it now. I'll know it when I need to.
And the truth is so fluid right now.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So fluid right now. And like I said in the beginning part, truth has its own resonation factor to it, and it requires deep investigation and inner work to understand what the truth means to each individual person. But when it comes to this coronavirus, it is a novel virus. It is not a weaponized virus. You talk to all the major viral people out there, and guess what? They say Mother Nature can make a virus way worse than any natural human can.
Yes.
Okay? Yeah. Because it makes it on the moment. And this is what this virus is. It is coming out at a moment where the soft underbelly of corruption is being exposed by a virus that really only has a 3%, 2% kill rate.
Yeah. Once we get through it, it'll be known as a defining moment in human history, like the Depression, or the Dust Bowl, and all that sort of thing. Right. But it's not worth talking about it or naming it right now because we're in the midst of it, and who knows where we're going.
And there's going to be a whole bunch of Hollywood movies about this stuff. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
There's going to be a whole bunch of Hollywood movies now.
If Hollywood survives.
Right, if Hollywood survives. Now, right now, there's a whole bunch of financial crimes against humanity going on that's trying to save the fake banking system.
Yes.
Okay? This is the other thing. They're just now trying to save the common human being. But they spent the last 6 weeks trying to save the economy instead of buying ventilators, making more masks, doing the things to prepare people or just to prepare the background.
Yeah. Even implementing freezing, like you mentioned, was it Italy or credit card companies are only allowed to charge 1%. So their system's still moving forward. They may technically lose money, but instead of freezing it, you can't sort of stop everything because it becomes stagnant. But if you just have a little, like, didn't the Fed in the United States, it's down to 0.5 or 0.1%. They're trying to control.
Yeah, but credit card companies here don't use that interest rate. The majority of credit card companies out here for low-income people charge you 25%.
Yeah,
interest.
That's why I never get credit.
And if you're really lucky, you get a card that gives you 7.6 or 7.8% interest, but that's only for like six or 8 months. Okay.
Yeah, it's
the credit card industry has completely changed over the last 15 years. Its whole model of doing business because it wants to keep you trapped.
Yes, yeah. That's why I never got into it because it's like, to me, even like getting a mortgage. I mean, maybe in about 20 years where I realize I've paid a mortgage and rent, but we'll get to that. It'd be interesting to see if they implement or the idea will pop up afterwards of the universal basic income.
Because universal economic rights, individual economic rights of each person, not to be robocalled, to not have your taxes taken out unbearably, to have an equal tax parity to everyone that's around you, consumer rights for bait and switch, all those things that everyone should have, consumer protection rights.
Yeah. Okay. Because people say we have human rights, and I've mentioned my shows. Yeah, let's add to that, like shelter, heating, food. This should be a basic level where you can still be healthy and not sort of living on the streets and going to crime. And
but all that could have been done. Like here in the United States, a new F-23 stealth fighter costs $2 billion per fighter. Yeah. So if you take 6 less fighters, you can significantly stop the majority of homelessness. Okay.
Yeah. I know.
Six fighters, less fighters out of your fleet of 400.
Yeah, well, that's the tipping point. Those 6, because the other 4, it is the numbers are, trillion. Someone mentioned that we're getting close to trillionaires, like over $50 million. What do you need it for? Like, unless
buying nations, bribing nations. Yes, there's plenty of things.
Yeah, but that's just
buying football teams.
Yeah, still. Yeah, but still,
starting your own Tesla corporation.
Yeah, well, there is that, but that he tries to help
putting
humanity.
A rocket on the moon.
Yeah. All right, I'll never ask a question again. I'm sorry. And another thing.
If you would have said 500 million, it would have been a lot less. You said 50.
Yeah,
That was the thing.
yeah. When did I mean it in 1921 or do I mean it now?
Exactly.
Let's explore possibilities of after we survive, and that's the right language. After we survive, it's not like if we will, and it's not the end of 2012 and the Mayan calendar is correct or anything else like that. Because some people have that fear mode, like people are buying 5 years worth of toilet paper here in Australia. Why 5 years? I mean, you need enough for six.
They're full of shit.
Yeah, that's right. Or they think they can go on the black market. Hey man, you want to roll? Once the virus dies out, and going with the nature thing, it won't come back, or there'll be immunity, or what can you see kind of unfolding once the virus has died out?
Well, many avenues can go, but is humanity going to go after the surviving government and say no more corruption? The stock market cannot be run by the greed and the ignorance. You know, people talk about capitalism. We haven't been on a capitalist society for 20 years.
Yeah,
we've been in a kleptocracy, worldwide kleptocracy. That has to end, and has to be end with laws that actually put people in jail.
Yes, and enforced. Yeah.
Right. I have this sneaking suspicion at right around the halfway mark of the quarantine, 4 months from now, because I think the quarantine will be at least 8 months. We're going to be seeing a big movement of people that realize there's severe financial crimes against humanity to save the economy and not save the human beings, as we start to reach 1 million, 2 million, and 3 million deaths because there wasn't enough ventilators. Okay. Yeah. Right now, all the big banks that are trying to save their stock could invest into a small production company and mass produce ventilators right away, but none of them are doing that.
No. Well, I've heard. Yeah, it's.
There's plenty of infrastructure where you can start making these high technology ventilators, and not expose them to coronavirus. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's a joke, but it's also based in truth. I think we should invest in hemp toilet paper.
All that stuff, but the thing is, there won't be enough farmers to do anything. There'll be, I believe that right away there'll be a movement to start tribunals to take people for crimes against humanity.
Well,
and that will determine how we restart our economy worldwide, because no one country is going to do it on their own.
No, because one country wouldn't fit in with that dependency type thing, and like I'm not saying that humanity is on the brink, but we can see it from here type thing. So maybe this is a warning where enough of a warning where people go enough, because we can see, if everything goes completely pear shaped.
It's already pear shaped.
Okay, fair. Yeah,
it's already pear shaped. It's already there. The thing is, once the pear starts to get nibbled away and we get filled up on what's going on, it's who's going to because the significant portion of government's going to die off worldwide from coronavirus. Okay. Yep. And new people are going to have to take over. Well, a lot of the lobbyists are going to die. Okay. A lot of the old guard that keep things stuck in position are going to die off. What are the new people going to do? Are they going to fall back to the old ways, allow the old people that got coached a certain way to run the new government, or are we going to say no more corruption?
Yeah.
Because ultimately, it's corruption that has got us to where we're at. Ill-prepared for a virus that could have been easily dealt with if we had stepped back to 1980s technology. See, that's the other thing. These ventilators, they were built in the 40s and the 50s. When they didn't have computers, they can be rebuilt again with the modern reproduction stuff. And we need 100,000 ventilators, 200,000 ventilators right away. The whole world needs them, but not one major bank or investment or angel investor has come out of the woodwork and said, "Let me try to make 100,000 of these really fast and sell them at no cost."
And real, because the true wealth of the planet is humanity, because you need the dollar means an hour of labor or something like that, where that's the thing about going to we have capitalism. Well, no, we don't, because the the wealth of the nation is its people, and the issuance of currency is a private company, and so we're trapped like that. If the Fed is dissolved and you put it back into Treasury, where it's actually people.
The Fed has already guaranteed itself being audited and dissolved because it just put another, what is it, $6 trillion of liquidity in.
Yeah.
You could never restart the economy without an auditing of the Fed.
Yeah, and
that's a matter of the viral outbreak of people demanding the auditing of the Fed.
Yeah.
And that's 4 to 5 to 6 months from now. Will those movements stick, and will the government be scared enough if it doesn't follow the will of the people?
Yeah. I just had a thought too. I can see most of the government being removed from the playing field from the virus because they're all over 70.
Right.
You're going to get a lot of new blood, and this is part of the change, as I call it, the shift. Mm-hmm. And because words like ascension have baggage, and the event, and which you mentioned was in 2014, which August. Kind of makes sense. Because some people said that we died at the end of 2012, and all this is just our mind is creating this. We haven't accepted that we all died. Now, I know that's not 100% correct. However, the concept kind of makes sense with the events actually happened, and we need to realize, what the potential
is now. Yeah. You have a set of choices that are available to you that you have to choose to better your life, better the people around you, not get caught up and mired into drama and a democracy that doesn't work no more. Democracy has been weaponized, okay? Capitalism has been weaponized. And, we live in this kleptocracy that's constantly stealing from itself.
Yeah, just for greed and power.
Right. Right. So the next thing is there's going to need to be a significant restructuring of corporations and government and how the two actually work together. Okay?
Yeah. Well,
will there be a jubilee, everybody's debt being paid off? No. There won't. There won't be. But what there might be is an acknowledgement of the secret banking system that got us here in the first place. And then you're going to be able to rebuild a stock market that's going to not use the SWIFT system. It's not going to use the existing systems that are so corrupt. They're going to have to put it on another set of books and start a new set of books. That's that toxic debt stuff. And it can be repaid over the next 100 years.
Yeah.
Okay? But, it's the bankers that using debt-based currency to keep everyone indebted. We can stop using debt-based currency as our form of currency and still allow the debt to be the debt.
Yeah, well, I've used the example of you remove the central banks and their debt. Eventually, prices could drop overnight because I guess that's the jubilee. If something similar happens, if the debt's not there, you don't need so much money because most people are just paying off debt. That's why they need the profit margins to pay it off. I think it was Benjamin Fulford put forward that, or he reported that there's an idea that all the money that the Rothschilds and the banking system stole will be paid back.
No.
No. Well, because as you mentioned earlier, all that money has been spent in the solar system in the secret breakaway.
Exactly. And so it's all been invested in there. That's why all these corporations and big banks are leveraged 600% and using mortgage-backed securities and CDSs and all those other things to make an economy, a $60 trillion fake economy. So that's why it's fiat currency in the first place.
Yeah. And
so that they can fractionalize it enough that some of that fraction can go to be built out in another place. Breakaway civilizations. Now, will disclosure come out of this? It could. I'm not saying it's not going to come out of it, but something's going to break through the cracks here and there.
Yeah, and before the virus, the media has sort of dumbed itself down because the right bit of information, it cracks in the dam and falls through. Like, we're very close to disclosure anyway.
We're far. Before this coronavirus, we were so far away from disclosure, it's ridiculous. The conspiracy community has nominalized itself because it has no true superstars that are assembling viral shows and putting stuff out that can connect to masses, period.
Well, yeah,
The
because
community cannibalized itself, and there are no
yeah,
superstars in the community whatsoever.
and there's rinse and repeat. It's the same
Correct.
thing over and over again, and you lose this. But it was like he's talking about like a friend of ours that was part of the community walked away for 2 years because that's what you sort of need to do occasionally.
Yeah.
If you're constantly in this vibration, it does wear you down. He comes back because the basketballer was killed in the helicopter because he works with code, and he started listening and like you haven't changed. You're talking about the same things. It's like, well, I hope my jokes got better. But it's because everything's moving really fast, but at the same really slow. And the biggest thing that sort of happened mainly is the slow economic slide into oblivion. But then you have this virus. The virus has been the major event in that narrative. And of course, that's where we've got 78 different versions of what's going on.
Or 7,000 versions of what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as we begin to realize we have to restructure the government and all that, universal health care is going to be one of those first things that's going to want to be on the block. And that means the pharmacy companies are going to have some major people testify, whether it's in tribunals or in front of groups that the truth comes out. And that you're going to have probably have some form of global nationalization of the big pharmacy companies, and then forever to be, at not for profit, at like no drug they put out can be more than 10% profit. So they're still a profitable organization. They'll still be able to be sold on the stock market, but there's going to be such limitations in them, and they'll never be greedy fucks again.
Yeah, yeah. What was gone blank? It'll come back to me about Thursday.
Okay. Then the car industry. Okay, it's going to need a complete and total bailout. Well, will there be something to replace the internal combustion engine? We already have electric engines.
I remember what I was going to say, and it does work in with this. The system that they put forward in the mainstream media would work. It doesn't, though, because it's completely corrupt. But our state of living would be awesome if, like we're told this, if the system worked, we'd still live in an awesome thing. Obviously, we can improve it and go further. With the car industry, we're still using 19th century technology with a combustible engine. I'm not a smart man. I don't own, or I could be. I don't own a white coat, but I know that a water molecule is hydrogen and oxygen. And if you put the right charge between it, you can split it, and they both are flammable. Imagine if I had funding and I worked for a car company, and then even salt water. We've got a lot of that. I'm not sure what happened to the salt, but to save the world, it's already out there in the general public. We don't need Super Jesus or a grey alien to go, oh, I can save you. It's like, we can, but that's how bad it is and corrupt. Is the answers we have is suppressed already. That's before we even enter Star Trek world.
This is where the car industry will more than likely turn states' evidence against the oil companies if there are tribunals or trials, or how are we going to survive from this? Yeah. And the big OPEC producing countries like Saudi Arabia are going to be up shit creek without a paddle.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, because they'll reveal that the oil companies have been buying patents that could have, made cars get 100 miles to a gallon in the 1970s.
Yeah.
Okay. Fuel efficiency.
Yes, actual fuel efficiency.
Torque to the wheel. Okay. Yeah. Changing the type of rubber that you use to a polymer that doesn't pollute the ground and has better traction. All that stuff is out there and in patents owned by the oil companies.
I've actually seen a Russian video where it's an electric car and they've fashioned a wheel on the back of it, and there's a belt around the back wheel, and so as you drive, it's recharging the battery. And it's just this little simple thing where someone's gone, you know what? I have an idea. What I'm going to do is put, it's just 16-year-olds are finding free energy source in their garage.
Well,
So
the original Honda Civic hybrid that came out in the early 90s was that exact technology. It's inside
yeah,
the wheel to recharge the batteries. The thing is, the batteries were so giant back then.
yes,
So
yes, yeah,
what the next thing here is, there are many ways to produce large volumes of electricity with existing science. What
yeah,
I was saying before is, tires themselves are an ancient technology. Like, tires
okay,
should be
yeah,
made out of polymers and ceramics that have the right level of what is it, perforation or holes inside, porousness inside them, that they're going
yeah.
to grab the road. They're going to grab the
Like,
asphalt.
would air be removed from that, or are you
There'd be
still
no
using
air.
air?
It'd be a solid tire.
Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, yeah. So yeah,
Right.
you have to worry
And
about
then
having, yeah,
it'd have a solid tire with its own grip process to it.
yeah,
Rubber is, again, comes out of freaking rubber trees.
yeah. And mass transportation, like trains, can move to maglev, magnetic levitation as well, and for speed and
Air.
yeah,
Listen, air powered. Trains should have been air powered since the very beginning.
yeah,
Pneumatic. All the standing lines should have been pneumatic air powered lines, and then you wouldn't have
yeah,
need all this electricity in the engines to begin with.
yeah. I mean, I've seen photos of electric cars like in 1903.
Right.
Imagine, yeah, my joke is
Exactly.
yeah, I love my joke is I remember when Nikola Tesla discovered free energy. He's like, I've discovered free energy, and then J.P. Morgan said, no, you haven't,
Yes.
and that's why we are today.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
because
So
it's yeah.
the car industries will turn over on the oil industry, and the oil industry is going to go, well, the CIA made us do it.
So they're gonna kick the can down the road type thing.
They're gonna try to. It's going to be like a bunch of mafia guys turning state's evidence on each other,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
from there, what actually makes the media? Because the media is just as complicit as all these other people.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
there's going to be a significant amount of major news media people that are going to get coronavirus and they're going to die because they're old fucks.
yeah.
Okay, and then
That
new journalism, is it going to demand the truth? And will the corporate people who run the narrative still be able to influence the local news people?
mm. Are you saying that journalists will actually investigate and do journalistic things?
Well, they do that now. They just don't make the news.
Oh yeah, fair enough. Okay, yeah, all right, I'll give you that
Like
one. Yeah,
Epstein, they knew in
yeah,
2013 what he was doing. Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. See, now Epstein was a big wake up call I don't know if anything happened, but people woke up conscious, not totally conscious, but it's like, I mean, the meme still, Epstein didn't kill himself. The latest one is Epstein didn't kill himself. Am I a little bit early? Because he got, it's just the use of humor is great.
Yeah.
Now,
Like
while we've got to,
Harvey Weinstein didn't kill himself, and he's still alive in jail right now.
yes. Now, will he get the virus? Unknown.
Right.
With the from a spiritual point of view, who will die from the virus? Like, because
Those that are meant to. And
okay, well
I won't say anymore because there's such divisiveness about, well, what makes this person more worthy than me? I'm a good person. This viruses don't look at if you're good or bad.
yeah, it's just in a way they interlock with a certain vibration. Is that what a good way of explaining it?
It's at one level, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I'm not
like I said
saying
earlier in the show, like in the show earlier, it's going through karmic debt vehicles so that an awakening can occur. And an
yep,
awakening
yeah,
from
yeah,
what?
yeah,
The global debt system, so that we have no global debt hanging over us, so we can make a set of clear choices about advancing ourselves. And many
yeah,
people will fall back to the old ways, and they're the ones that are going to be stuck in a rock and a hard place where evolution for them is not going to mean anything. They're going to want to go back to sports and their football and their drugs and not have any form of personal evolution and growth. Whether they're an
yeah.
atheist or a spiritual person, it won't matter. Atheists and spiritual people go through the same renaissance of creation,
All
just a
right.
different
So
perspective.
yeah, and of course that karmic debt, loss of life, that's not locked in, is it? Like if people
Yes.
today, like watching this show, make a choice of like, well, I don't want to die. I would like to become healthy and better. What would you suggest? Now we're not doctors, but we've met one. What would you suggest for, like, I would say, boost the immune system? You can try vitamin C
The
or apple
most
cider vinegar.
the most important thing is to not be in fear, because when
Okay.
you're in fear, your immune system is compromised.
Yep.
Okay, any form of normal, standard, healthy living, vitamin
Yes.
C, regularly taking a little bit of silver iodine, but
Hmm.
understanding silver iodine, iodine, silver, iodine, silver, it's not going to stop the virus from getting you.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
there's a lot
Yeah.
of people saying that it does. It will not. It's not
Mm.
antiviral.
Yeah.
Oil of oregano is not going to save you to it. It does is boost your immune system for a little period of time. Now, most people don't know this. Like, if you're taking more than 6 pills in a day, dietary, you know that you're not absorbing like 85% of those pills. You're just shitting it out.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
How
That
many
makes
people?
sense. Yeah.
How many people do you know that are taking 20 pills a day? A lot.
Uh, yeah.
A
I'll say a
lot.
lot because yeah,
It's a
I would have to leave the
total
house.
it's a total waste of your money if you're taking anything more than 6 pills in a day. Your body cannot process the binders that are in the pills. And one of the biggest frauds out there is the dietary supplement community that wants to get you on your monthly bills. Now,
Yeah.
that's something else that's going to hit hard. Now, the naturopaths and homeopaths that put out the right forms of medicine put out pills that you can digest and you can absorb about 40% of it.
Hmm.
And this is internal colon cleansing. So
Yeah.
during this journey, go on a fast. Okay, do
Yes.
a
Yeah.
broth fast, do a bone broth fast where you're just eating liquid soup for 4 or 5 days. You'll survive, and allow
Yes.
yourself to cleanse out some of that stuff that's inside there so that your natural immune system can get even stronger, so that those 6 or 10 pills that you take every day, you can digest them.
Yeah, and also from I've had personal experience of the body purging. It's a fascinating ride, especially like that came out of me.
Right. It was wiggling like
It's
an octopus.
yeah, like that's a very dark, that's a strange shade of black. It's
Right.
fascinating. Yeah. It's and what I find interesting part of the awakening is like to stop the coronavirus you should have hygiene and wash your hands and do all this stuff, and I'm thinking like normal, like you normally should do. Like, why aren't you people washing your hands already?
Mhm.
And boosting the immune system. Just
Form of
raw
spirit,
foods.
a form of spiritual hygiene that cleans out the environment that you sleep in, like the bed that you sleep on. There are plenty of spiritual techniques that you can do that can clear out the energy in that space so you can sleep normally. Or the
Yeah,
bathroom that you use every morning. Those are my basic recommendations for spiritual hygiene. The bedroom you sleep in, the bathroom that you use. Those are the 101 basics that you should learn to have cleansing ceremonies or rituals around, that you put
yeah.
enthusiastic effort behind.
Yeah, and of course, dear listener slash viewer customer, we're not saying this is your get out of jail free card, but you fighting chance, or like you're in a
Right.
better
Fighting
yeah
chance. Exactly.
yeah.
Now,
And if
other
anything,
thing,
and whatever happens. Go ahead. Sorry.
the other thing is, there's going to come a point where the fear is going to get really bad for a lot of people, and that's going to put you into anxiety, hesitation, and doubt. That
Yeah.
is where meditation, yoga, martial arts, and exercise are going to be vital. Vital,
Yes.
vital,
Yeah.
vital, vital, vital. Anything that's going to get the body moving, because you're not getting your normal dopamine releases from going to the movie, going to the bar, going out shopping, any of those normal things that you could have normally gone and done if there wasn't a quarantine.
Yeah.
You got to
I
be
would
able to
add.
figure out how to have regular dopamine releases.
Yeah, I would add comedy, watching
Yes.
comedy on YouTube and Netflix as well,
Yeah.
because that would be encompass everything. Because you got to move it or lose it, and by actually just going outside and looking at the sun, not directly at the sun, don't be the president. Oh look, it's a solar eclipse. But just going walking, doing laps of your front yard or your backyard.
Mhm.
It may not be normal, but you can still get your mileage up and your exercise, and don't turn into a couch potato. I guess that's
A
the
lot of
the
people
message.
will become a couch potato,
Yeah.
but it's going to grind onto them. They're because the fear is going to be on the couch, but then one day they're just going to get up and go, I can't do this no more. I got to get out.
Yeah. Yep.
Cabin
Let,
fever will take over. And
yeah.
don't let that cabin fever make you do stupid ass shit.
Yes, I'm going to run towards that group of people, that type of thing. Because yeah,
I'm gonna invite a bunch of people over to have a quarantine party, and we're gonna drink a bunch. Okay.
yep, yeah, I'm going to defy the virus by
I'm
allowing it
having a
to.
cook.
Yeah,
I'm having a spring cookout. I invite
yeah.
everyone over. Okay.
Well,
Y'all
see,
can sleep here tonight. Right.
now the interesting thing about the planet is it's kind of top heavy with population and landmass, and you're going into spring and then summer. Here in Australia in the southern hemisphere, we're going into winter. So self isolation's not that friggin' hard. It's
Right.
cold out there. I'm not going outside. It'll be interesting. It's going to test people's endurance or metal, whatever the term is,
Mm-hmm.
when this hits. And I think, yeah, the elements of cabin fever. I'm glad I live in a unit. I don't live in a box.
There's gonna be a lot of people go, it's my birthday, man, or it's my
Yep.
21st birthday. I want to go out and drink.
Yep.
Okay, that age group, or it's somebody else and it's their 50th birthday or their 50th wedding anniversary, and they're gonna try to secretly invite people over.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the stupid things. You could do it online, damn it.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah, exactly. You know, we're doing this on Skype. There's
Right.
StreamYard. There's, and this may be a once in a lifetime event. And
Right.
yeah, Andrew's talking to a Time Lord. If your birthday you turn 21, just wait 7 months. Wait till you're 22,
right.
and do even bigger.
Even do it twice as big. Exactly. Do
Yeah,
it twice as big. You have two
you-
21st birthday parties.
Yeah, well, that's what I did when I was 42.
Right.
Like, it's 21 again.
Right.
Yeah, every time I have a birthday, I'm saying I'm 16, and that's a mindset. That's for me. That's how I sort of battle old age. It's like I keep looking at young people, going, "Oh, you're so dumb," but it's the experience anyway.
So something else for people to eat healthy, eat regularly. And, there's going to be a lot of people who are very hardcore vegetarians, and they're going to have a really hard time. Do not become anemic.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of vegetarians have challenges because they're not good vegetarians. If you're really a well-educated person, you can easily become a vegetarian and know how to get the right amount of proteins and all that other stuff and not become anemic. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people who are vegetarians who are just bad vegetarians, and they become anemic. And once you're anemic, you will give yourself the virus faster than you can know, and you won't survive it because you're anemic.
Yeah, well, the battleground is your immune system. It's your body. So if you have because you've mentioned that people may get the virus and be totally unaware. Is that like their immune system so strong? Like Matt Damon's character, he was immune to it in Contagion. So they won't get sick. They go through the process.
He wasn't immune to it. He had something that allowed him to give a body response that fever killed it out. His body response was something that fever was allowed to kill it out.
Yep, fair enough. Okay, yep, fair enough.
There was a natural body response. Now, if you're anemic, you can't. Even if you're anemic and you have that natural body response to something new come into your body, and your super fever comes on, it's not going to happen. You're just going to die if you're anemic.
Yeah. Totally understand. So, but that sort of answers my question of certain people, their body will know how to deal with this, and just their genetic, whatever makeup or whatever their experience, that they'll do it. The thing is, obviously, why we're going into lockdown. Well, we're not really. We're in state of emergency here in Victoria, and we're not in lockdown, and we're self-quarantining and self-isolating.
That's what we're doing here too.
Yeah. So eventually, I think, like, for me, my awareness is slightly higher when I go outside, or I go to the physio for my stepdad, as well as the supermarket. That's the only two things I have to leave the house. And so, I don't know, in my mind, spiritually, I put up shields, and if something happens, it's supposed to happen type thing. But I don't allow it to sort of be that worm that goes straight in like fear and go, oh my God, I can't. But like, I decided to drive, which is fascinating for my stepdad. It's like, because I'm a unique driver. But we would catch 4 buses a day, 2 there and 2 back. And for me, that's an opportunity. I guess what I'm getting at is you can still live your life be aware, not in fear, but adapt. You're human. We've been doing it for 300,000 years or more, depending on what timeline we're in, because 72 starts. So it's it's a once in a lifetime event. It may be just like half a year, and you'll make it to the end, and then you'll be able to sit on your front lawn with a laptop having a mango juice, and you can watch the old corrupt system be put on trial in a very loose way.
Mm-hmm. So to finish up on healthy living, we talked about not becoming anemic.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are going to go, well, what am I going to eat today? Oh, I can't have what I want. Learn to cook.
Yeah.
Learn to cook and learn to make your volumes of food to last. Try not to throw out food, because right now our disposable society is going to make it very easy for you to just blow through your stuff really fast. Learn to enjoy cooking. You can go out and for $2 buy enough yeast to make 20 loaves of bread, or $3 in yeast to make 20 loaves of your own bread. And all you need is a little bit of sugar and some flour and a little bit of salt. Yep. That's all you need to make your own bread.
And you have YouTube. Yeah,
You have
the
YouTube.
internet.
You could also make your own alcohol at home. Okay?
Yeah.
Become crafty motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
Really become crafty.
The way I explain sort of similar thing is like most people don't know how to start a fire.
Right.
Like if they need to, Now, I'm not. I back it up with I don't want you to try and start a fire. You just need the thought, because that's part of we learnt it thousands of years ago, and that's how we got here today. It's just having the thought of I'll accept rubbing two sticks together. Yes, that's fine. I'll accept that. When you try it, you'll realize there's an art form involved where everything else like that. But for anyone listening, if you want to have fun with friends, it's like, do you know how to start a fire? Yeah, use a match. What if you don't have a match? And wake them up that way, where it's like, it's a simple idea. It's once you learn that little bit of knowledge. I mean, Prometheus stole it from, it's a major evolutionary step. Yeah,
most people can't start a fire with one match.
Yeah, yes, or a lighter and burn their thumb. Yeah.
Okay. Even if you had a bunch of little paper, they don't know how to assemble the wood in the right way for it to craft properly. Right.
Yeah, it's that art form, but
right.
Yeah, technique, and that's for me for my thinking. That's enough of a seed. It's like, well, you do that, and you can I use analogies where it's like, well, hang on, we can adapt. So like, if I can do this, then we can do, it's like the 4-minute mile. Humans couldn't run more than 4 minutes till Roger Bannister did it, and everyone's been doing it. Yeah, right. And it's that element as well. So, we're coming up to the. Oh.
Yeah, so I was going to say, become crafty. Your food will be a great way to create positive vibes and enhance your capacity to have a higher immune system.
Well, because love is the secret ingredient.
Right.
When you create something, you're putting energy into it.
Right, and this is where you can throw the extra oregano for the immune support stuff, but a lot of that's placebo, and sometimes you need that extra jolt of placebo to really give you that high frequency boost.
Yeah, and that goes back to the permission slips, where that's why placebo works. Big Pharma have stopped sharing results of drugs trials because the placebo is doing better than the drug.
Exactly, doing better than their drugs. Right.
Crap. All right. Well, so thank you for an interesting show. We're in the closing overs, as cricket players would say. You can go for 5 minutes if you want, but anything you want to round out on, and obviously tell people how they can find you on the interwebs, since we have a lot of time inside.
So on the interweb nets, you can go to andrewbartzis.com. You can look up my name, Andrew Bartzis, on Facebook, Galactic Historian on YouTube, also Twitter, and I forgot all the other stations are around. We're on a whole bunch of stations. You can go to my website, andrewbartzis.com, and look at all the special things we got going and the shows that we've got going on.
Yep, cool. And so, what parting shot or final thought you like to say? Even if you want to just talk a brief history of your senile cat, which I think I could turn into a comic sitcom. What meow? What?
He used to be a killer, and he'd bring 2 to 3 presents a day, dead animals a day.
Okay.
He was a serious murdering cat, and when he was young, we would tell him in the midwinter, don't kill everything or you're going to go into a depressive mode. Like, he would kill everything that's outside of this house, everything on the house next door, and the house next door. And then he'd have to go 2 months with nothing to kill. And he was the most depressed cat out there. No birds. He killed everything. And we would tell him every winter, don't kill everything like you did last year.
Yeah. Learn. Yeah, I don't know why. Every time that if I do an old cat or an old person, they always end up Jewish. Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? Hey, I went outside. All the birds are dead. What's going on there?
Yeah.
I just like, your cat's having a senile. Me? Oh, what's the rest of it?
Me? Yow. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you yow. No. Yowie? No. Well, thank you for popping onto the Monty Dean show. Pleasure as always. And I'm sure you'll come back because we scraped the surface because there's so many things we can talk about. Like in our production meeting, we mentioned like chemtrails and finding out that, just talking about that for an hour and a half would be fascinating of, history. Like, well, just a very tidbit. I have people that don't believe it while they're looking at a plane with a line across. Across the sky. Like, that's not real. You can see it from here. One game I do have is I watch TV shows when they're outside, and all these lines across it, and apparently that's natural.
Right.
Yeah,
it's natural. Exactly.
Yeah.
Natural my ass.
Yeah, the try to justify it, like the weather people, it's like, oh, this is this type of cloud. No, you're full of shit. Exactly. Anyway, that was the Monty Dean Show Part 4. There's going to be a lot of parts. If you enjoyed the last 2 and a bit hours, like, subscribe, comment nicely, and share. And if you're on Anchor FM and Co, if you're listening audio, force people to listen to it. Just put them in a room, and because I think a lot of information came out.
Because they'll be under quarantine.
Exactly. Perfect time. I wondered why it took me this long to create a YouTube channel, and then a virus comes along and goes, here you go. Once again, he's Jewish. I know. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We'll see you soon.